Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to my Healing for Purpose podcast. I am your host, Farron Foreman, your life coach, woman of God, and your new friend to you or familiar friend if you are returning. Here I talk about self love and healthy relationships God's way. If you want to end toxic relationships and learn how to love yourself better, keep on listening. I appreciate all of you who support me and come back again for another episode with me. So, today we're going to be talking about God is love. All right. It's a follow up from our last episode that we were discussing about some things that you should have in relationships whenever you are getting ready to enter a relationship. Always evaluating yourself first because that is where the relationship starts. It starts with you. Okay. So, we're just going to recap some of those things: time, help, spirituality, patience, finances, emotional and mental, loyalty, and obviously, our number one on the list is love. All right. So, we're going to start and open up with the scripture today. Our scripture is beginning in First John chapter 4 verse 7. And it reads, I'm reading from the King James Version, by the way. It reads, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God. And everyone that loveth is born of God, and knoweth God." Verse 8 reads, "He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love." Okay? So I just want to open up this segment by saying, do you know what love is? Okay? Do you know what love is? Do you know what it looks like? Do you know what it feels like? Do you know what it sounds like? Okay? I ask people all the time. That's my favorite question to ask. Do you know what love is? And I love to ask people's definition of love. And it's never anything from the Bible. You know, people have lots and lots of definitions of love, and not a lot of the time it's in accordance to what scripture says. But the Bible gives a pure, beautiful, genuine, accurate description of love and how it's supposed to be. And a lot of people reference that Jesus Christ on the cross was the greatest display of love. And I cannot disagree with that. However, when it comes to turning that over into your relationships, a lot of people struggle with conveying that and being able to relate that to in a relationships because, you know, we're not around here putting ourselves on the cross literally, but in so many ways in relationships we do lay everything out there for all to bear, and for that other person, whether it's a family member, a coworker, a job, a spouse, whatever, a brother, a sister, mom, dad, cousin, we lay it all out there. And sometimes, rarely if ever, we end up receiving that love that we've laid out there for the other person. So in verse 11, it says, "Beloved, if God so loved us, we ought also to love one another." Okay? So if we're not loving each other, that's already a problem. Okay? It's already a problem. We're not living in accordance with scripture. Okay? Because he already called us to love one another. But most people, like I said, don't know what love is. They have no idea how to express love in a biblical way, the way that God had called us to love one another. And we know when we're not being loved properly. For example, I know a family member and a a discussion, a disagreement that they had was that they didn't love each other, and the love that they were experiencing from each other, it was not reciprocated at all, or they felt like the other person wasn't loving them well. And whenever we're not being loved well, from my own personal experience, it's something missing, it's something lacking, or something the other person is doing or saying. And whenever you have that feeling on the inside, like, man, this person, they don't treat me right. The way that they're talking to me, the way that they're treating me, it just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right, and I feel alone. I feel hurt. I feel um, isolated, and I'm in a relationship with this person that I love, and they don't love me. And you probably, maybe you do say that, but then they come back around, and then they'll do something to make you kind of forget, or you kind of brush it off, or they just do something to make you remember that, oh wow, this person isn't so bad. And it'll have you sitting there ruminating and thinking like, oh well, okay, they did do this for me, they do that. And you'll make excuses, or you're blindsided by their good traits or their good behaviors or the good times that you had or the good memories. And that's what makes it so rough and so hard and so confusing to know what love is, what it really looks like. I remember that after so many toxic relationships that I've had, I ended up sitting and sliding down in the kitchen of the home that I grew up in as a child. And I had just been through broken relationship after broken relationship, and I didn't ever really take the time to heal, and I never really knew what love was. And even though I would read my Bible from time to time, I wasn't really in it like how I should have been in it. And that's what made it so easy for me to get manipulated and abused, is because I never sat down and read my Bible and got to know what love truly was. So there I was in the home that I grew up in, and sliding down the cabinets in the kitchen, tears just filling my eyes, and just feeling so heartbroken and hurt because I never knew what love was. I didn't experience that from a parent, a two-parent home, I should say. I didn't experience that. So it was always lopsided. I would get one perspective and one aspect and then not the other. So I was really confused. I was really in between. And I didn't know what it looked like at all. And I broke down, and that's what I was saying. I was just like, how in the world am I supposed to know what love looks like when I've never experienced it at all for myself? And I was just really broken, really hurt, really angry, and really sad. And I didn't know where to go. I didn't know where to start. And that was pretty much the beginning of when I began seeking where to go, how to heal from, not knowing what love is. So even though it's in the Bible that God is love, I had never understood what it really meant to truly love and be loved. So, what did it look like? In verse 18, it says, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear, because fear hath torment. He that feareth is not made with perfect love. Okay? So, if you're finding yourself in a relationship filled with fear, fear from that other person, fear that they might leave you, fear that they might hurt you, fear that the love that they show you, it hurts from time to time. Fear because of the words that they use towards you. Fear because of the manipulation, you almost feel crazy. It creates this fear inside of you. And I just want to let you know right now, whoever you are, wherever you are, that is not love. Absolutely not. If you are living in fear because of the love that you're experiencing, and somebody is telling you that is love, it's a lie. And I'm not sure if you know, but we're going to talk about First Corinthians chapter 13, and we're going to get into what love is, what it looks like. Okay? In First Corinthians chapter 13, we're going to start in verse 4, okay? And if you guys are just looking to stay in touch and follow up in the next episodes and reach out to me, go on Facebook, go on Instagram, Farron Foreman. That's Fairren Foreman, Foreman. Okay. You can find me on those platforms. We can talk, we can discuss, we can connect, we can link up, and you can always come back here and we can get in another episode. And in First Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4, it says, charity suffereth long and is kind. Okay. So just stopping right there, you know that love, it's long suffering. So if you have somebody that is short tempered with you, if you have somebody that's always putting you on this deadline, somebody that's always putting you on their terms and their timeline, you know that that's not long suffering. That's not unconditional love. That's not true love. Love is long suffering. So even when the times get hard, even when it gets rough, you don't throw in the towel. When God sees us, he doesn't throw in the towel when we mess up. He's long suffering. So no matter how old you are, if you're 18 years old, if you're 30 years old, if you're 50 years old, if you're 60 years old, God has shown you that he is long suffering in his love for you. No matter how many times you failed, you've made a mistake, how many times you've gotten it wrong, the charity that he has for you is long suffering. Okay? So charity envieth not. These people that claim to love you, no matter where you're at and what part of your life, they need to be showing you that they don't envy you. They're not walking around here going, oh, why does she have that? I should have that. Or why does she get this that way? You know, they're not going around here envying you, you know. Carrying on, charity vaunteth not itself. It is not puffed up. It's not going around here acting like it's better than, acting like it's so full of itself. You know, I don't know if any of you have ever met somebody that just acted like, oh, yeah, like whatever I have going on, it's the best you ever had. And you're never going to find anything better than me, better than this. You know, that's a real puffed up mindset to have, to act like, you know, nothing else you're ever going to have is better. If you're being treated like that, that's not love. Okay. Verse 5, it says, doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil. Okay. If you have somebody that's wishy-washy, they're in and out, they're double-mindedness. If they're telling you one thing today and then next week another thing, if they're acting one way today and then they get around somebody 5 minutes later, if you're at the job and something just seems off and they're saying, oh, you know, yeah, we're cool, this, that, and the third, and they're being nice to you, and the next, you know, your supervisor gets around and they're acting a little bit more uppity or more stuck up or acting like they don't really, you know, they don't really know or care, or they're more distant with you. Anything that's contrary to where it's something that what the interaction is between you and them initially, it's off. You feel like something is just not right. It's off. And even though you probably can't put your finger on it, you know it's something, and it's just not sitting right with you. Okay, that's behaving itself unseemly, seeking not her own, meaning like the person cannot be in there in this relationship with you for their own benefits. If you have a mom or a dad and they're just always there, and it seems like they're always there when it seems to benefit them. They're showing up and looking good in front of everybody else, but when you really need them there the most, they're not there. It's not about them. That's why they're not there. Okay. It's not easily provoked and thinketh no evil. So if you have somebody who's real short tempered with you, and you're noticing that anytime I make a little mistake, it's a problem. They have no grace, they have no mercy for me whenever I make a mistake. God has that for us. He has that charity for us. He allows us to make mistakes. He doesn't get in the way of that. In fact, whenever you make mistakes, they're learning moments. You learn from your mistakes. And if you have somebody that's impatient with you and they get easily upset with you from the littlest things, you really have to sit back and go, is this somebody who I really want to be with? They have no room for me to make a mistake. If you get in a relationship with someone and you go in there and you burn cookies, and they get frustrated with you because you burnt the cookies. Now they're calling you all types of names, and this situation has gotten out of hand. And this is kind of going back to the episode in 2, having that patience for yourself. That's why learning what love really is and having that self-love is so important. Apply these things for yourself. God has them for you. Who are you to not have them for yourself? So whenever you have them for yourself, you have them in the relationship as well. Okay? And verse 6 we're going in and says, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in truth. Okay, so this person isn't rejoicing when bad things are happening, and they're rejoicing in truth when the good things are happening, when things are truthful, when they're right, when they're fruitful. You don't want anybody rejoicing. It's like they're batting for the other side. You don't want anybody going, see, that's what you get, I told you. You don't want that type of attitude. You want to be, whenever you are having a relationship with someone, you want them to cheer you on. You want them to correct in truth and love. Okay. This is all love for yourself as well. We beat ourselves up, and you have to have that for yourself as well. Okay. Verse number 7. Beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. These are so key. These are so key. All right. So this is why, when you say love beareth all things, when you think about endurance in a marriage, in a partnership, in a relationship, even I always love to focus on self-love. Truly, you have to have this for yourself. We're so hard on ourselves. Me, myself, personal experience. Okay. I am a perfectionist. I love for things to be perfect. And if I make a small mistake, sometimes I have a tendency to beat myself up about it, and I give myself a hard time, and I have to have endurance for myself. Okay. So when we're talking about beareth all things, when you're thinking about having a loved one and you're enduring in the marriage, you're enduring for the long term, you don't throw in the towel after the first year, after the second year, the 5th year, the 10th year. It's endurance. It has to bear all things when you are in those hospitals, when you're losing loved ones and cousins and moms and dads and going through the hard times. You have to learn how to bear those things in a relationship, and they're not always easy. Believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Okay. So you're going to go through those times in a relationship where you are going to have to believe, even when everything looks like it's going to fail. Even when you don't see how, even when you don't see when, that faith is going to have to preserve those things in a relationship when you're single and in a marriage. And if you don't learn those things in self-love, they're much, much more difficult to learn when you're doing relationship with someone else. Okay. So verse 8, charity never faileth. I'm going to stop right there because love covers a multitude. Okay. Love covers a multitude. Charity never fails. Love never fails. Jesus Christ's love on the cross did not fail. God's love for us did not fail. Your love does not fail when it's rooted in biblical principles and love, the way that God created love and how he talks about in the scripture. Okay? But whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. Okay? But back up. Charity never faileth. And that's just where we're going to leave that segment today. I really want to let that marinate in your spirit, okay? Because when we're talking about love, it gets so deep. So when you say that you love somebody, you have to take these things into consideration. Love, you don't just rush into it. Love takes time. It takes time to build all those things up. Those things don't get built overnight. And that will lead us into episode 4. All right. So I just want to thank everyone again. Thank you for joining my podcast. I really appreciate everybody's support. And I look forward to seeing you again on the next episode.